All right, guys, so we have a very special guest with us today, Dr. Laura Harjo. Doctor, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
So, you're a very busy woman today. I know you have a workshop today. Is that correct? A panel, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, can you talk about that and what it's called?
Yeah, so it's called Indigenous Feminisms, Freedom for All. And so it's Johnny J, Paulette Blanchard, and myself, and we're going to be talking about kind of what Indigenous feminisms mean and how we operationalize that for community.
All right, and then you have a workshop tomorrow. You want to touch on that a little bit as well?
Yeah, so the workshop is, if I can remember the title, it's Before We Journey to the Milky Way, What Will We Build Together? And so that's more of like a community mapping workshop. So I see myself as an Indigenous methodologist, and so I also work in community planning. So that idea of like, if people want to weigh in on something that they want to see in their community or in the future, they have to go to maybe a meeting and give a 2-minute speech. They get handed a microphone, and maybe that's not the best way for people to communicate what they care about and what they want to see in their communities. So this idea then is for people to work in groups and to think about the things that they cherish, like here in Northwest Arkansas, maybe what are the things that people cherish? Is it the forest, the bluffs, the rivers, the deer, etc.? So if these are the things that people cherish, then like how can we maybe map the areas that we care about and that we want to see thrive and continue and not be harmed? So the idea then is for people to map the things that they care about and kind of compare each other's maps and analyze it together. So then they're producing this community-based knowledge about what they want for their community. And it's not the thing where you're at a public hearing and you're handed a microphone and you have 2 minutes to be succinct and precise. It's like people really get the time to draw and color and think through the things that they care about. So yeah, that's kind of what that workshop's about.
Definitely. We were talking a little before the camera started about futurology, was it? That you
Oh,
said?
futurity?
Futurity.
Yeah.
What does that mean for someone like myself?
Yeah, so in my scholarship, I write about Indigenous futurity. And so what that means to me is that it's not necessarily a temporality in the future. It is actually the past, present, and future, and thinking of that and putting those kind of temporalities all in motion. So then in terms of past, and if we're thinking about our ancestors, what are the unactivated possibilities that they didn't get to carry out in this world? So, earlier Johnny J was talking about kind of disability and disease within community. So then there's this dimension of premature death in our communities, and not just Indigenous communities. We see it around COVID as well, that people had relatives or ancestors who didn't get to realize all of the possibilities of their lives. So how is it that we can pick up those possibilities in a contemporary moment? So that idea of operating in a contemporary moment, kind of sandwiched between past and present, or no, past and future, then how do we create the kind of futures we want to see right now? And how do we also create for our future relatives? So part of that is really bound up in this idea of not waiting maybe for federal funding, and thinking 20 years into the future, because a lot of times it's like, sometimes there's like a ceiling on what we imagine for our communities. It's like, if we can only get that grant, if we can only get these decision makers to listen. But it's like within our communities, we have all of this lived knowledge. We have people with a lot of different skill sets who have the ability to create right now the future that they want. It may not be like the full kind of dream, but they have that ability to create it right now and to put the things in motion that they need for this future that they want for their future relative.
Before we let you go, the word indigenuity has been spreading around here. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so to me, the way that Dr. Wildcat talks about indigenuity, and he's talking about place and experience and how indigenous people have lived in place for millennia, and our cultures and identities are shaped around that. So our languages are based in the things that were around us. So for Muskogee people, we have a lot of different words for water, and we live near water. So if it's grounded then in place and experience, the way that I come to this is I come with a methodology thinking about how Muskogee people think about the world. So taking their worldview and operationalizing that around place and experience. So I kind of ground that in 4 areas. One I call Stajati sovereignty. So this kind of self-determination that is grounded in relationships and people and not in being recognized as a sovereign by the federal government. The second is that knowledge is produced by the community, so that the kind of knowledges that we have, like whether it's felt or something that we dream about or you smell, that those are valid knowledges. The third is around power. So how is it that people come together and create these relations to produce communities? Not like overseeing somebody or authoritative, but the power to come together and create something. Like that's indigenuity. And then lastly is this idea of emergence geographies. And that's also rooted in Muskogee knowledge that we have continually reemerged. So we were removed from the southeast to Indian Territory or current day Oklahoma. We reemerged there through different devastating federal Indian policies. We have continued to reemerge. So that idea that we have these different geographies where we're not contained to like this 11 county area, that's indigenuity too. That thinking yourself out of this reservation box, that we live in cities and we have pods and we have futurity and community there, that we live in rural areas, that we're not contained to a particular geography. So that kind of, I kind of couch that around this idea of indigenuity, that those 4 concepts can help us think about place and experience, and that's indigenuity to me.
Well, thank you for your time. I know
Thank
you're
you.
a busy woman, and I hope this was good practice for your workshop coming up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.